Hi, I'm Stan Wheeler, and this is The Simple Gourmet. We're beginning our second season today, and I'm a little excited. We're going to do some pizza today, and I have a special guest, my daughter Kyla, who is the best pizza cook in our household. So she's along with me today, and we're going to do 3 different pizzas. Kyla's going to do 2, and I'm going to do 1, and we'll kind of help each other as we go. So what are we doing first?
First we're going to do a taco pizza. So while I get the crust ready, why don't you brown the ground beef?
I can do that.
All right. So what we do is we just bought pre-made dough balls that you can get at Hannaford. We let them rise for a little while in a little bit of olive oil. You just take them out with your hands. Wash your hands always, of course. And you just stretch them a little bit, make sure they're ready. This one seems ready. I'm going to get my pan ready. To have a simple pizza pan, you can tell I've used it a lot because of all the cut marks from my pizza cutter on here. We're going to grease the pan real quick.
Do you want me to season this at all?
Just let it go for now.
Okay.
What I always do with my pizza crust is I put a little bit of cornmeal down on top of the pan. I don't know why I do that. I just saw somebody do it once, thought it was cool, started doing it, and...
Well, I can tell you why you do it.
Go ahead.
Because it helps the crust as it rises. It just keeps another little layer on the bottom of the pan and helps the crust rise, and then also helps it release from the pan.
Ah, well, there we go.
There you go.
So, I've got my crust again. Now, I don't do any fancy flipping or anything with it. Just stretch it out a little bit at a time. You got a nice shape. Gonna take a little bit of work, just work it around so it's about the same size as your pizza pan. Put it down on, and then just kind of stretch it the rest of the way, pat it in. And if it doesn't fit exactly, that's fine. Doesn't need to fit, it'll stretch a little bit more as it cooks.
And besides, we're not getting points for the look of the pan,
exactly.
Of the pizza, so yeah.
Exactly. Alright, this is ready to go, so I'm just going to stick it in the oven. I've preheated it to 450 degrees. Stick it in while we do the rest of our prep work for this pizza.
So how long do you cook the pizza for?
The crust you cook for about 5 minutes. Keep checking it. If it starts to bubble up a little bit, then you should take it out. Alright, next, here what I've got is a bag of shredded mild cheddar cheese. I'm going to take a package of taco mix and put a liberal amount, maybe half the package, on the cheese, and then put the rest in with the meat. Dad, if you want to do that?
Sure.
So we just take our hands, mix it in. What this does is just gives it a really nice taco flavoring. Adds a little something more than regular cheese does. Gives it a little spice. Not too much heat, just some spice added to it. So that's all set. Now we're also going to put an onion on this pizza. I really like to use red onion. I really like the flavor, and I really like the color that it gives to the pizza. See, look at this really great purple color here. Thanks, Dad.
In our house, we compost, so that's what this thing is. That little thing on the back counter that looks like R2-D2 is our compost bin. And you'll notice that what I've done is I've pushed all the taco meat up onto one side and put it and kind of canted the pan a little bit, and that allows some of the fat to drain off. So you don't have to worry so much about the fat accumulating on the top of the pizza.
Now I'm cutting just about a quarter of this onion. We might not use all of that. I always cut more just in case. Into a pretty small dice. Now I'm not great with the knife work or anything. Didn't learn at a young age like my dad did. So I just kind of do a really rough little dice here. It's okay if the pieces aren't the same size. It's probably killing you to watch me do this.
No, actually it's fine because you're doing the pizza. It's not, the onion's gonna be all done anyway.
Yeah.
If you're doing, vegetables that if you have different size vegetables like potatoes or something, you would want them all to be the same size. But just for a rough chop onion, that's great.
All right, now this is a lot of onion, so we're probably not going to use all of it, especially if we've got like a date or something afterwards, or just hanging out with anybody you want to stay friends with.
Or you can always tell them they have to have some of the pizza in self-defense.
Right. All right, so this onion is all set. Dad, do you want to chop the tomato up for me?
Sure. Except what do you do with my knife? There it is.
Sorry. I'm going to put this to the side.
Now you want this in a small dice?
Yep, that would be great. I'm going to check on our crust to see how it's doing. It's looking really good.
And I did set the timer there for 5 minutes.
All right.
So, or actually just under 5 minutes, but.
Now, I've been making my own pizzas for what, like 10 years now?
Oh yeah.
For a while, and I really spent a lot of time just experimenting. I used to get powdered dough, mix that together, mix different spices in, but I could never get it quite right. So when we found these dough balls that came in the store, kind of a great thing to find in the market. We use them all the time, probably 2 a week. I experiment a lot with different pizzas. These 2 that I'm going to make today are my favorites. This taco one. It's really good.
And then what's the other one going to be?
The other one's going to be a vegetable pizza that we're going to use white sauce.
Is that enough, do you think?
That's great.
Okay.
We're going to use a white sauce and a pesto and put some veggies on it.
Good. All right.
All right, now we're all set. We're just going to wait for the crust.
So we got the crust out. One of the things that I noticed is that when we brought it out of the oven, it had a big bubble on it, and I gave it a little push, and Kyle said, "Oh, don't do that, don't do that," and it just went down by itself. So once again, if what you want is a nice puffy crust, and it will, as it cools a little bit, it will lose the air inside it.
Yep.
So go ahead, let's dress this crust.
And if it doesn't lose the air inside of it, that's okay too. You can push it down just a little bit, a little rag. You don't want to burn yourself, so don't use your hands. Be careful, steam will be escaping from it. I have gotten a few burns doing that, so just be really careful. All right, the first thing we're going to do is put a little bit of pizza sauce on it. I just used a little bit. I myself am not a huge fan of tomato sauce, so I just put a little bit on there. Dad, could you hand me a spoon?
Sure. How's that one?
That's great. And the hot sauce. And I also use a little bit of hot sauce to give a little kick. Our family, well, at least our half of the family, the 2 of us, really enjoy spicy food. So if you're making this for yourself and you enjoy spicy food, or other people that enjoy spicy food, go ahead, spice it up, but do be aware of who you're cooking for. My mom has gotten quite a few surprises that she doesn't always enjoy.
The Wheeler theory is if it doesn't make you sweat, it's not good.
Yep. Yes, indeed. So this might look like a little less sauce than you would want, but we're also going to put tomatoes right on top of the pizza. So this is really just to give something for the cheese to stick to, so it's not just laying on top of the crust. All right, so once that's all spread out, the next thing you're going to put on is the cheese. Now, you can buy pre-seasoned taco cheese. It's in the cheese section of the refrigerated foods area. But I find with that cheese you don't get quite as much of the actual taco flavoring, so I use a more liberal amount with the packet. So you just kind of spread this on. It's okay if it gets on the part of the crust that doesn't have sauce. Doesn't need to be too pretty. It's all okay. Is that what you say?
No,
what
I
am
say
I
it's all
supposed to say?
it's all good.
It's all good.
There you go. It's all good.
All right. So now we've got that cheesed up. Next thing I want to put on is the onion. Now it's okay that I'm not washing my hands in between each of one of these steps because it's all going to the same place. But I usually wash my hands probably 4 or 5 times while I'm making pizza, just because you get a little slimy from the various oils used, things like that. A liberal amount of tomatoes just kind of on there. I'm going to separate this little chunk that got.
Good to go.
Awesome. And spread that out. I'm a little compulsive about my pizzas. I like the toppings to be very even, so I spread them out just a little bit.
And see, if it were me, I'd put a little more a little more onion right there.
All right, all right. Now the black olive. And if you don't like any of these things, just leave them off. I just top it with different things that I put on my tacos or burritos. And look, at the colors of this are already coming together really, really well.
Awesome colors.
Now, do we have a green pepper?
We do have a green pepper.
Could you get that out for me and cut it up real quick?
Sure.
Is these jalapenos. These are totally optional. I love them. I eat them straight, eat them plain. One thing that's good to do if you're not a big spicy person, but you do want a little bit of this, is break it up with your hands as you put it on. You don't need to dice it, just break it up as it goes on the pizza. Spread it out. You have to be careful, this is just a can of jalapenos. Sometimes in the cans they get pieces that are a little too close to where the stem was, or you will get a stem. So just watch out for that. Also, you can take the seeds that are right in the middle of this, take that right out, and just use the outside part. That helps get rid of some of the spice.
So I'm thinking that's probably going to be enough.
Oh yeah, that'll be more than enough. Thank you very much, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now this is looking really, really good. I'm pretty excited about this. I haven't done a taco pizza in a while.
And I keep telling Kyla that she ought to open a pizza shop.
I don't have the time.
There you go.
All right, thank you. So we're going to spread the green pepper on there. There we go. There's some of that color that we were missing. Look how nice and bright that is. That's awesome. And you can already smell all the vegetables. Now it's looking a little loaded, but we still got to get that meat on there. It's okay. Go ahead and overload your pizza. The dough can take it. So you just want to take a spoonful of this at a time. It'll be a little hot if you just cooked it, but it's okay to use your hands because you don't want to get big globs everywhere. So you just kind of gently spread it. It'll be a little saucy, but you can wash your hands afterwards, so that's fine. Don't worry about getting messy. It's my favorite thing about the kitchen.
And why are we brushing olive oil on just the crust? And as opposed to maybe the whole crust? Why are you just doing the exposed crust here?
Well, something that I really like to do is I add a few extra spices to the crust itself.
Yeah.
It makes it taste a little bit like a breadstick.
And makes it stick.
And so the olive oil makes all that stuff stick.
I see.
So if you could hand me that salt. Thank you. My hands are still a little wet. Let's see. All right, so you just spread a little bit of the salt around. It sticks nicely to the olive oil. If you have a little extra, put it on top of the pizza.
Now, we use kosher salt mostly. Sea salt would be really good here because it's a bigger granule, and so you'll give you another little crunch, a little layer of crunch on there.
Right. I don't like things too salty. Some of the time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this case, I don't.
That's why I love it.
So I use the smaller granules. This is a little bit of oregano. You might say oregano on a taco sounds weird. Tastes great. So just trust me on that. Just kind of spread that around. It's okay if it gets a little bit on the pizza itself, on the toppings. It'll still taste good, I guarantee it. Now I also use a little bit of garlic salt, just a tad. You've already got onions, why not go for the garlic too?
Now, just let me correct you here.
Yeah.
We don't have garlic salt in this house. We have garlic powder.
Sorry, what's the difference?
Because garlic salt has salt in it. You've already salted it.
Okay.
And if you're going to buy garlic in a powder form, buy the pure garlic.
Okay. I stand corrected.
That's just a personal preference of mine, but you know, why pay for salt when you've already got salt?
Exactly. Now, I feel like we should have a little bit more spice on this pizza.
Because if it doesn't make you sweat, it's not good.
So I'm going to put a few crushed red pepper flakes around there as well.
You know, guess what? When we get to my pizza,
Yeah.
I'm going to put little crushed red pepper flakes in it. So
I'm going to put some on
it'll
my
be
second
cool.
one as well. They'll
It'll
get
be
well
cool.
used today. Don't tell Mom. Don't let her have any of this one. Well, she'll probably want to try it, but then she'll come to me and say, "Ooh, Kyla, that was too hot." I'll say, "I warned you." So, Mom, I warned you. It's a hot one.
Okay,
All right,
ready to
we're
go in the
ready.
oven?
It's ready to go in the oven.
All right, we got a 450-degree oven.
And I usually put the pizzas in for about 12 to 14 minutes. I usually set the timer for 12, check it. If the cheese around the crust is starting to get brown, give it a few more minutes, let the middle really get nice and cooked, and then you'll have a great pizza ready for you.
All right, so all we've got to do now is clean up this, and we'll get ready for the second one, and we'll be right back.
All right.
So we're all set. We got the first pizzas all done.
Smells really good.
Really good, really good. Look at that. This is what we call GBD, golden brown and delicious. Looks great. Look at the colors. The meat is kind of popped up to the top. We've got cheese and the herbs around the edges. And if you don't mind, I'll do the honors if you'd like. And
Go right
I'll
ahead.
cut it. I'll grab my favorite knife.
I'm going to step around to the other side
Okay,
again.
okay.
Now, do you remember pizza nights when I was little?
Oh, sure.
What did we used to do? We used to listen to Paul Simon's Graceland.
Yep.
Still, every time I hear that album, I think of pizza. And you used to cut the pizza into squares.
And you know why that was?
Why?
Because we used to go to a pizza shop when we lived in Dayton. What was that? What was the name of that shop?
Marion's.
Marion's Pizza, and they served their pizza in little squares. And, you know, it was like, you know, you could take a little piece, and it would be like a bite and a half, 2 bites.
I remember.
And would work pretty neat. So that's why we did that at home, too.
Yeah. Now, if you can see, there's a little bit of juice from the tomato that's pooled up. That's fine. I also remember at that Marion's place there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle video game. The old school Sega one.
that shows how old you are.
Those are still around. I don't know about the video game, but... All right, so taco pizza.
There you go.
Looks great. We will probably wait a little while to try it, though, because it's still
It's
really hot. All right, so we got our second crust ready for our next pizza. If you could take that out, Dad. Here we go. Now this one got pretty well done, but that's great. Looks really good. I'm gonna pat down the bubbles just a little bit.
You can see the steam escaping.
Be careful. It hurts a bit. All right, so this is what I like to call a white pizza, even though it's not technically a white pizza, because we're gonna start off with a pesto base.
Which, of course, is not white, it's green.
It's right, but we're gonna use no tomato sauce whatsoever. So I figure that's white enough. All right, so just a pretty liberal spoonful of pesto. I'm gonna spread that out. If you're gonna hold on to your pan like I am, make sure you have the oven mitt on. Spread this out nice all over. It smells really good. It's already warming up on the crust, so it smells great. That basil in there.
Now, if you're a real gourmet, you want to make your own pesto, you go right ahead. But this is jarred pesto, and it's certainly sufficient for use in a pizza. Pesto is basically just basil, olive oil, and pine nuts, and a lot of garlic mixed together. And you know, you mix it together in a blender, and you can use a lot of quantity.
All right. So now here comes the white part. On top of the pesto, we're going to put some Alfredo sauce. It adds a great flavor, really creamy, really nice.
And a calorie or two.
That's true. It's but there's going to be veggies on top, so we'll make up for it.
Yep.
So I use quite a bit of Alfredo sauce, just so you get a nice layer. We're not going to use quite as much cheese as we would on a regular pizza, because the Alfredo sauce has cheese in it.
It does.
Okay, so it's already got cheese in there. That's already working for us. So just spread it evenly all over the dough. All right, that looks really good. And it'll make kind of a weird greenish white color, but
You're going to cover it with vegetables.
yeah,
It'll be good.
It doesn't look pretty right now, but it will. All right, now before we start putting stuff on it, I'm going to season it a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit of oregano. Pesto has basil in it, but I love oregano on pizza. That's what I always use. So I just liberally sprinkle that over the sauce. When I was making pizza with my cousin the other week, I kept using the word liberal and liberally sprinkle everything. So if I'm sprinkling something or spreading something, or assume it's liberally. Dad, could you grab me the mozzarella cheese?
Sure.
We are going to use a little bit of that. I'm also going to use a little bit of shredded Parmesan cheese right on top of the pizza. Small handful. Right like that. Maybe a little bit more. Thank you very much. If
You're
you
welcome.
could take
I'd be
that.
happy.
So here's some mozzarella cheese. Again, you don't have to cover it so you don't see the sauce anymore. Just a little bit so you get that nice stringy pizza.
So would you say this is a conservative
Yes,
sprinkling?
it's a little less than liberal sprinkling. That's right. Thank you. All right. So now the first thing I'm going to put on this pizza is broccoli. I always get a little weird look when I tell people I want broccoli on my pizza, but it is really good. It adds a great color to it, and it's good for you. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Can't get hurt.
So you put the broccoli on. This is just from a bag of frozen broccoli. I put it in the microwave for about 45 seconds. Not too bad at all. And it'll cook a little bit more in the oven.
And the good thing about using the frozen broccoli, it's already cut up into little pieces like that.
You don't have to do any
so no chopping.
work other than putting it in the bowl.
Let me take that and you can have that.
Thank you. I'm going to wipe my hand a little bit. All right, and actually, I wanted something green on my pizza a couple weeks ago, and we didn't have any broccoli, so I put peas on it, and it was just as good.
Cool.
So it was a great color, and it tasted great. And the peas melted right into the cheese, so they didn't roll off or anything. Next, I'm going to put some carrots on. Now, these are just baby carrots that I've cut into really small little matchstick pieces. You can buy them already matchsticked. Is that a verb?
It's not a verb, but it's okay.
Already matchsticked. So, but I just did this myself. Took them, cut them into little pieces, put it on, and look at that color against that green.
And besides, why do you want to pay somebody to do the little work that you can do in 5 minutes?
Exactly. Might not use all of this. And since they're going into the oven, they will soften up a little bit. Some people are like, isn't that a weird texture? But it will soften up a little bit in the oven. So it won't be too weird. And the last thing, we're just going to use some more of that red onion. Again, I really love this flavor. I don't know, is there a big difference in flavor between the red onion and the white onion?
There's a subtle difference, yes.
I've always just liked it better. Maybe it's for the color, but it's just what I prefer to use.
The red onion tends to be a little milder. It's on the sweet side. Of course, normally in this house, when we use onions, we use Vidalia onions or Vidalia-style onions, because you can't call it a Vidalia onion unless it's grown in Vidalia, Georgia. But the large white sweet onions that are very similar to Vidalias that are available year-round.
All right, and now, Dad, if you could just brush the olive oil around that,
Sure.
like you did before.
Sure. And this would be a liberal brushing of olive oil. And one of the things that you can do this using this crust that you make yourself, but you can also buy pre-cooked crust. I remember the first time I ordered pizza after we moved to Maine, and I called in an order for a pizza, and the woman on the phone said, "Do you want a fresh dough?" And I said, what other kind of dough is there? Apparently, fresh dough means that they start from a dough ball, and the not fresh dough, or the opposite being stale, was a dough that's a crust that's already made and baked ahead of time, and they tend to be uniform and flat and not very tasty. But you can use them if you want to. I just always find that using this kind of process, you could make the dough actually yourself. It's a very basic, simple yeast dough recipe. But using this kind of dough then puffs it up and just adds some texture and a little better flavor to it as well.
And I forgot that I wanted to put some black olives on this one as well. So I just grabbed those out of the fridge, pre-chopped in a can, just like we used on the taco pizza. Adds a little bit more color, adds a little bit more flavor. I really like the black olive flavor. I don't really like other olives though. You guys are...
You're weird.
The rest of the family loves them.
You? I love olives of all kind. The more exotic, the better, I think. But I'm pleased you like black olives. I think that's kind of neat. There.
All right, and thank you. And once again, we're gonna season the crust just to make it. I always say it tastes like a breadstick. I already said that earlier. Mm-hmm. It just is really good. Gives you a little treat to look forward to after you finish your piece of pizza. And look at the carrot on that. It really looks kind of artsy. I'm pretty proud of how that looks right now.
You're a pretty artsy pizza maker here. Now I noticed that you put more salt on the whole part of it because, and the reason for that is these are vegetables and they're fresh vegetables. So I'm sorry, the broccoli is technically not fresh, but you want to have the seasoning in that. Whereas the taco meat had the taco sauce on it already, or right, the taco seasoning, and the number one ingredient in that, I'll bet you, is salt. So you don't need to put nearly as much salt on the taco pizza.
Right. Back to our oregano, and just right around the crust, and a little right on top of the pizza too, because if you put it right on top, it's going to blend really well with the pesto flavors. A little bit of garlic powder around, and you can see I'm making a little bit of a mess all around where the pizza is. That's fine, it'll wipe right up.
Because your dad will come along and clean it up.
Or I might clean it up. You never know.
You never know.
Something crazy could happen. Now, crushed red pepper flake, my friend and yours,
Mom,
hopefully.
It's going to be a little warm.
So right on top. This is a little harder to get in a sprinkle, so sprinkle right around the circle. That piece will be mine because it's got a lot of pepper on it. All right, and this looks great. Let's toss it in the oven. Gently.
Yeah, with gently toss.
And that'll go in again for about 12 to 14 minutes. All right, so now we've taken our veggie pizza out of the oven. It's really great. It's got all these colors on it. It's a really nice golden brown right around the edge, which is what you're looking for. So now I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, and the third pizza that we're going to do today is a Greek pizza, and we're basically just going to put some spinach, a little goat cheese and feta cheese, and tomatoes and a little bit of onion. So what I've done, I've got a bag of spinach that I bought at Hannaford, and I washed it. And really, you don't want to steam this too much, but you just the little bit of olive oil and a little bit of water here, and we're going to just reduce this down. As you know, with spinach, it reduces down pretty quickly, and I'm just going to toss that in, get this all cleaned up, toss this back in the sink.
Do you want me to do anything with that?
You could put a little bit of salt on it and then just stir it around.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'm going to slice some tomato. Use a little bit of the tomato that we've got already cut. This particular tomato is the kind of tomato that I buy at Hannaford most of the time. It's called an ugly ripe tomato. They're certainly considerably more expensive than normal, but or the other kind of tomatoes, but it actually has a real tomato taste. So a little salt in there, you got it?
I already got it.
Okay.
Now you've already cooked the crust for this pizza, right?
Yep.
All right. Now, the reason why we cook the crust before we cook the pizza as a whole is so that the crust will get a little bit firmer. Sometimes when you cook a pizza without cooking the crust first, the dough gets really flimsy underneath the toppings. It gets just kind of soggy. So cooking it first just crisps it up a little bit, gives you a nice solid base for your toppings, so you don't get that floppy pizza effect when you're eating it, and get sauce all over your chin, and nobody likes all that.
And one of the things that if you buy a pizza at a pizza shop, their pizza ovens generally are a little hotter. So you don't have that kind of issue with soggy pizza, although sometimes you do, depending on the pizza shop. One of the differences here is that this is a whole wheat crust, and just because I thought I'd show a different crust. I also just sprinkled or just brushed a little bit of olive oil over the top, just because there's going to be no sauce on here, just the spinach is going to go on first, and then tomatoes and so on. So that's looking good, I think, if you want to just turn this off.
Sure. Now, did you already say, is this a Greek pizza?
This is a Greek pizza. I mean, just, you know, a classic feta cheese, spinach, and tomato. You know, it's kind of classic Greek. So I've squeezed a good bit of the water out of there. I would probably let this cool for a few minutes, but it'll be okay.
Don't hurt yourself.
No, I'll try not to. You could let it cool and make it a little easier to handle. I'm hoping the other thing about cooling it is you could squeeze more of the liquid out. But I'm hoping that we won't have a soggy pizza here.
Well, since we pre-cooked the crust,
Yep.
hopefully that will prevent that.
And the other thing is there's going to be a lot of tomato in this thing, and those are juicy.
Yep.
So one of the things about Greek pizza is it just tends to be a little soupier, if you will.
And sometimes if you do have a soggy pizza, just let it sit for a few minutes. Let it cool. Let some of the juices that have collected kind of go back to where they belong, settle down. It won't be as hot and it won't be quite as juicy if you just let it sit for a few minutes. Let it rest while it cools.
And I guess I would say that the more traditional way to do this would be with Roma tomatoes rather than these big ugly ripes. And part of that just is then you get a smaller diameter pizza, and maybe it makes it a little easier to eat. But that's what we have, and that's what we use. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of onion around here.
Now,
Again.
I've seen a lot of pizzas with like tomatoes and basil and
Yeah.
mozzarella cheese. Is that
Yeah.
a margarita pizza? I know there's
I don't know.
because I know there's a kind of pizza that's a margarita pizza that's named after some queen from Spain or something like that.
Oh, I thought it was the...
No, not the drink.
Oh,
That would
Well,
be
I'm not
like
familiar.
lime pizza or something.
we got a little crushed red pepper. Mom, this is going to be a little spicy.
Sorry, Mom.
And actually, what I had meant to do, and then I just plain forgot, was I was going to put the red pepper in with the spinach when it was cooking, but it'll be all good.
Does cooking it add something to it? Does it roast it a little bit more, or?
No, it just actually wilts it down and makes it so it's closer to what you're going to put on. And so, as you know, spinach shrinks a lot.
Right.
So you don't want to put a big, have a big thing here and then have it shrink all over your oven. So
No, I meant the red pepper flake. Why did you want to put the red pepper flake in?
Because then it does infuse into the flavor of the spinach.
Oh, okay.
So we're just putting some goat cheese around. You notice that was a very small little piece of goat cheese.
Yeah.
But a little bit goes a long way.
Yep.
And it also tends to be a little sticky, as you can see. It gets on your hands. Didn't we say something earlier about if you don't want to get your hands dirty, don't cook.
And if you like getting your hands dirty, look into cooking.
Yeah, there you go. Because here on this show, we like to keep it simple and keep it gourmet. There we go. You could use frozen spinach for this if you wanted, and just eliminate the cooking step. I never use canned spinach. I don't even know what it tastes like and wouldn't begin to know. You could use the frozen spinach if you want. You just kind of thoroughly defrost it in the microwave for a minute or so and squeeze all the liquid out of it and then spread it evenly. And you may find that you might want to use a little bit more.
I think you get a little more bragging rights too if you say you cooked down the spinach yourself rather than using frozen.
Yeah. Now, you know what? I know that I have in my cupboard some imported Kalamata olives. And I know we put olives on the other two pizzas, but you know, I don't think a Greek pizza would be a Greek pizza without just a few olives. Now remember, these are Kalamata. They're different than the traditional black olive that you like.
Right.
They tend to be considerably saltier, partly because they put them in brine. We're not going to put a lot on there, but I don't think it would be a Greek pizza without a couple of Kalamata olives.
But if you don't like Kalamata olives, you can pick them up
Yeah.
off afterwards. Like
Or not even put them on. You know, once again, just as with any pizza, put the stuff on that you like. You want to go ahead and put that in the oven?
Sure.
All righty. And we're going to time this one. We're going to start at 10 minutes and check it at 10 minutes because the tomatoes are a little fragile, maybe a little more fragile than some of the other stuff. So we'll see how it looks after 10 minutes and then we'll check it and see.
All right.
So we got our last pizza out of the oven. You can see that with the whole wheat crust, it tends to be a little browner. You'll also notice that I didn't do the thing that Kyla does around the crust with the olive oil and the other seasonings, just because it's basically a Greek pizza and that would be clashing flavors, I thought.
You want to keep it really simple.
Yeah. So we're going to cut this up.
I really like how the cheese is browned a little bit.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know what I did? About the last 45 seconds, I turned the oven on to broil, and I had it on the top rack, so so it came out pretty well, I thought.
Yeah. I do that sometimes too if the pizza's not browning up as much as I like it to do. When I know the crust is done, and I usually know it's done, the crust is usually done before the rest of the pizza is, but it won't overcook if you keep it in while the toppings cook. If you want the toppings to get a little browner, the cheese, you crank it up on broil for the last minute or so. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, and it comes out nice and brown on top and it doesn't affect the bottom of the pizza. Oh, it smells really good.
Yeah, it does. It's really smelling good. The tomatoes got nice and soft.
I think it's time to get a new pizza cutter.
The pizza cutter also, you know, it always is an issue when you get to the outer edge. Because there's a lip on the pan, and that's, you know, just that the physics of it can't get all the way there. But we'll just cut this.
That cutter has also seen a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
A lot of pizza action with that cutter.
Yep. So I think we're good to go.
Oh, that's great. Dad.
You want to just grab a spatula and
Sure.
plate a couple slices.
Here's one with a nice big tomato on it. Look at that.
Wow.
Oh,
Whoa.
a little bit of runoff there. This little guy next to it. And if you've got a few extra toppings that fall off, scoop them on. You don't miss anything.
Good to go.
All right, should we try it?
Yeah, we got to say a few things first.
Okay.
Got to thank Hannaford for their sponsorship, as always. Glad to have you with me today. This
Thank
was
you.
fun. I had a ball doing this.
Thanks for letting me come.
We have probably learned a little bit about working in the kitchen together with
Yeah.
each other. We've got 3 pizzas here. We've got a taco pizza, a vegetarian pizza, and a Greek pizza that's also vegetarian but just doesn't need to be billed as a vegetarian pizza. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a bite of my Greek pizza, and why don't you take a bite of one of yours?
I'm going to try the taco one.
Don't forget, you can always visit us at www.thesimplegourmet.net, and we'll get these recipes up there pretty soon. So enjoy.